Welcome to the Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
Welcome back to another episode of Morning Throners podcast. We got Ned 13 on deck. I don't know. Kyle doesn't look very excited from the Google Hangout, so I know Nelson is. Nelson's got like a creepy stare going on. Kyle's just kind of relaxed, and Glow's got a JV webcam. You can't even see him. So
Let's go. Glow's still dealing with his shitty computer because he got fired from his job.
No, I did not get fired from my job. I got a new job, and the webcam just doesn't happen to work.
Kyle, what do you think? Let's just get Kyle's overall thoughts. Do you see any of this coming?
Well, yeah, no, I didn't know that he was going to be put in charge by any means, no.
Well, he's not in charge yet.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Robert
could
showing up
live.
hurt and all that. Like, no, I didn't see that coming.
Okay.
But isn't that like an old, like, trope, though? Like, you go on a hunting trip and kill somebody, you know? Like, oh, you accidentally got shot, hunting accident, you know?
I don't know. I feel like, let me pull up what your predictions were for the last Ned episode. I feel like you were, like, you thought that, like, Robert was going to come back and undo everything Ned had done with, like, sending Barrack after the
Yeah, that was a while ago.
everything.
That was the last Ned, yeah. I
A
feel
while
like
ago,
last
the last
episode we
Ned
talked-
was chapter 45, and this is 47.
Yeah.
We've literally had Ned every two chapters.
Yeah,
it
but I
was
think
Ned, Sansa, Ned, Danny, Ned.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a while ago. And in timeline, it was like 2 days ago.
So Kyle's not shocked by what happened at all?
I'm getting hurt? I didn't think that was a big a thing. I don't know. No, I'm not.
In the last Ned chapter where Robert confesses to Cersei, or Ned confesses to Cersei that he knows about Joffrey.
Yeah.
Kyle predicted that when Robert comes back, he basically already knows and isn't pissed at all and like doesn't care.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I told you it was 2 ago. It was 2 Neds ago that I said that he was going to do all
I mean,
that
that's
stuff.
still only 4 chapters ago. 5 chapters, maybe.
Which is much longer.
It's
like
I don't know.
4 weeks, 5 weeks.
In our time,
What I'm saying
timeline,
is, no, we had another one that
timeline.
kind of changed the prediction. And what I said was I thought he was going to stay out there as long as he could and possibly not come back. Or, like you said, not think that this is as big of a deal.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you
that was
said
last
if he
right?
does, yeah, in the ones from 2 episodes ago, you said Robert tries to undo some of this, but too much will have already happened. So what is? I guess we'll get to it. Let's start off. Jeff, go ahead. Back to the beginning.
All right, so we start off with Ned actually in a dream where he's in the crypts of Winterfell, and he's kind of walking through them and heading towards his dad, and where his dad and his brother and sister are buried. And he said like the stone statues of the people and the wolves are like turning and scowling at him or snarling at him as he walks by, and then he remembers the big line of Lyanna, the promise me,
Ned.
and bam, he wakes up.
Yeah, it was her statue. Were garland. A garland is what, a dress?
No, Garland
Or
is
crowned.
Like a
A crown.
No,
necklace,
it's like
right?
a necklace. Yeah, like a lei
Okay,
almost is
okay,
like Garland.
Okay.
But it's,
So yeah, so she wore a garland of pale blue roses, and her eyes wept blood. So that was the last piece of it. Yep.
What was the promise? Do we know that yet? I forget.
Not really.
Okay.
I don't know if you had a prediction for it or not, but they definitely haven't said outright what it was.
We can get the
Okay.
prediction at the end of this one because they bring it up a bunch. This episode or this chapter, I'm saying.
Yeah, but I don't think that it gets any clearer through this chapter. So I don't know.
I think you're right, Kyle. If you have any thought about what it is.
Well, no. I mean, we'll talk about it at the end, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't know how.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I
Sure
don't think
I
that
am.
anything. I don't think anything will be clarified throughout us
I
going through
think
the chapter
it's
for you.
confusing.
Yep. All right, Jeff, go on. So he wakes up.
So he wakes up and who's this person now? Kane.
It's Tomard and Kane, right?
So Tomard, we said, was the head
Fat
of
Tom.
the House Guard now,
One thing I
right?
want to point out is in this chapter, there's like 3 mentions of Eddard, like Winterfell guardsmen that are mentioned for the first time. So like, Ned's sending everyone away when we're getting new guardsmen being introduced. This like,
Yeah, like Kane.
Right,
and
yeah,
shit.
we said that every time.
yeah,
Because Kane, this is his first
Lower and
mention,
lower
first
ranks.
mention. Yeah,
and
And he doesn't want the one dude leading. That's
yeah.
later, sorry.
It was that guy's first mention too. Yeah, but yeah, it was that guy's first mention. You're good. Yeah, they show up. Tomard and Kane show up with the steward, Robert Steward,
yeah,
which is
and,
basically like
the
Vay
king
on
wants
Pool,
him.
but for Robert. Yeah.
The king wants
The
him
king wants your
immediately.
presence at once. So basically, he doesn't know what's going on. He's like, fuck it. He's back from the hunt. This is Ned thinking. And he's like, all right, well, you got to wait for me to change and get some clothes on him. My dick's swinging right now. And so I think it's Cain helps him get stressed, and they help him down to the Red Keep. Was it Daemon Stronghold? What's it called?
Maegor's Holdfast. But it's a weird mention that he takes the Valyrian steel dagger that like the
he did. They did notice it. Yeah,
he mentions that, but like, does that ever come up again in the rest of the chapter?
Yeah, he brings it out with Littlefinger.
Yeah, but when he brings it out with Littlefinger, it's in this room that he starts in.
Yeah, but it was he pulls it out of his thing. So I think he was probably preparing, like, look, they sent the dagger, like, you know, that kind of stuff, like to argue his case, like for like what's going on.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's 100% what it was, because he doesn't realize Robert's hurt right here.
Yeah, he doesn't know anything.
I thought it was weird too that he strapped on the dagger like he was wearing it.
I was trying to think of why, but that makes sense.
How bad? Yeah, that's the thing that like Kyle gets a perspective that we don't get. Like we all knew what was going to happen
either.
So go ahead. Who was saying that he goes to the Red Keep? He goes to it's called Maegor's Holdfast. They describe Maegor's Holdfast really quick.
They call it a castle within a castle.
One thing I'm going to say is that when we first get a description of the Red Keep of King's Landing is when Catelyn's approaching it on the boat. And what in the quote from that chapter says, Maegor the Cruel had seen it completed. Afterward, he had taken the heads of every stonemason, woodworker, and builder who had labored on it. Only the blood of the drag would know the secrets. But the point is, Maegor the Cruel, who is actually the son of Aegon the Conqueror, so he's like one of the sons of Aegon the Conqueror, is the one who finished this castle. Obviously, Aegon started it. And then the Holdfast, so like the center part, is called Maegor's Holdfast, which it's the same, obviously named after the same person. A massive square fortress that nestled in the heart of the Red Keep, behind walls 12 feet thick and a dry moat lined with iron spikes, a castle within a castle.
So as Ned is like walking up, they make it to Ned's or Robert's chambers.
Before we even get there.
But like in front of it in the hallway. Yeah, go.
So he's like looking at all the guards essentially.
Yeah, this is
around, and like
at the front of the hallway is one of the
well, there's like the gold cloak is walking around on the up top. Mm-hmm. So that's a King's Guard, right?
Gold cloak is the City Watch.
There's City Watch, okay.
Yeah.
And then like
so
this
kind of like
employed
by
that's why I'm bringing it
crown.
up.
Yeah, so the person in the front of the hallway, I think, is Boris Blunt. He's a King's Guard in all white.
Okay.
And then I think who is it? Barristan
Selmy.
Barristan Selmy's in front of the door, and then there's another one like
more, I forget his
up
name.
in the ramparts or something.
Did you catch why Ned's like?
This is from that battle at the tower, right? When they had to fight the three, and him and somebody else were the only ones.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's definitely because Ned's like, wow, that's weird. Like 3 King's Guardmen. Like I remember that last time.
Yeah. That's
so like I said, this is like he thought he was still going to his death pretty much here, you know, like or at least like a major.
Well, so he's having another major confrontation, and
Which
there just so happens
huge
to
turning
be
point in his life for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 King's Guardmen, just like in his dream and past or whatever.
So he gets announced into the bedroom, and it smells like absolute dog shit.
Wait, so who's the 3rd Kingsguard?
Oh, I have it right
Preston
here.
Greenfield,
yep.
Barristan Selmy, and Boris Blunt.
So as Jeff was saying earlier, once he gets in the room, it smells like dog shit, and it's really hot. It smells like death or
I don't
something.
think he describes
hear
dog
Robert's
shit.
Voice.
He says the room smelled of smoke, blood, and death. I think is what he says. I don't think he says
dog shit.
Pretty much
dog
dog
shit.
shit.
It doesn't smell good. Doesn't smell good. So who all's in there?
Pycelle.
Yep.
Renly, Cersei, Tom, and Cain with Ned.
Yeah,
that's
so
it.
the 2 guys who are escorting Ned, so Tom and Cain, Cersei,
Cersei,
Renly, and then Robert and Pycelle. Yeah,
and
so
Pycelle,
that seems it, and then maybe some servants, because when they come back in, servants seem to come in, and he says servants come in to like put wood on the fire.
I think they're like stoking the fire, and
they're trying to like soak the cloths in wine or whatever. Like they're trying to.
Yeah,
They're probably Pycelle's servants, but yeah.
So part of the reason it smells like smoke is because Ned says there's 2 fires burning.
Because he's freezing.
There's 2 fireplaces. Yeah,
losing so much blood.
Yeah, that's the only reason I want to point that out. Is because at the end, Robert's like, "Why is it so cold in here?" And then immediately has people come in and put more wood on the fire. And Ned's saying that there's like other people have like beads of sweat on their forehead, and Robert's like cold as shit. So yeah, he's obviously. I mean, they're just kind of pointing out like, yeah, he's super fucked up, as if like the description of the wound wasn't that bad. So yeah, Renly's pacing.
Groin to
Cersei sits on the
fucking
edge of
nipple?
the bed. Yeah, so that's what he says. When Ned gets to the bedside, he sees Robert. His face is pale as milk. He only had to look at him to know how bad it was. When he
He
asked
still
like
had
what
his
happened,
boots on.
Still
Yeah,
his
he
boots
still
on.
had boots on.
Cersei looked
He
dead
already
asleep,
saw
but
his
wide awake.
clothes. His clothes, like his doublet, was like ripped, like was like torn up. And when he asked what happened, Renly's like, it was a boar. And Robert's like, oh yeah, it was a fucking devil. But it was my own fault. I drank too much wine and missed my thrust. And Ned kind of gets, seems like almost pissed at first. Like, how the fuck did Renly and Barristan let Robert die? And they say that Barristan, or that Robert was like, stand back and let me do it. It's like wasted. And he's like, hold my beer, watch this kind of thing.
This is the problem with
Robert
my
kings
wineskin.
just having absolute power and just being able to be like, no, I'm doing this, stand down. Like, what? So if you don't stand down, is that treason? Does he kill you? Type of deal?
Barristan broke his vow.
What do you mean?
Barristan broke his vow. Give your life for the kings.
Right, but isn't his
That's
vow
not-
also to like follow
But-
the king?
Yeah, he's
Follow
but
the
I would-
king's orders?
to obey orders. But I would say the first and foremost, and I don't know if this is how it
I don't
works.
know.
But when,
I mean, we're falling into like a.
There was no time to stop it. Like,
I obviously agree with you guys, but that's obviously not how Barristan feels, right? Like even when Ned goes out there, he's like pissed. He's like, I fucking failed.
Yeah, Barristan has a lot of guilt right now.
That's how the Secret Service guy would feel if his guy got shot at and hit. Like, oh, I should have seen it coming. But yeah, I mean, it happens in the movies all the time. Like the guy's like, oh, I should have been there. I should have seen it coming. Like, come on. Like the guy. One, this guy's telling you, get the fuck back.
Well, there's a
And-
difference
And it's
between
your
seeing it
boss.
coming. There's a difference between seeing it coming because Barristan might have saw it coming.
Okay, so Barristan goes and kills this boar and
I'm
steals
saying
his
I'm
glory.
saying you guys are right. Like when you get a direct order from the king, you have to obey it, right? Like no matter what you think is going to happen. If Barristan tries to step in, Robert's going to fucking stab him or something, right? Like he's wasted and he's
not a
fucking
good,
Robert anyway.
It's not a good deal.
well, and he's done this many times before.
Yeah, so that's what Ned says.
Yeah.
So we're
like-
jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah, that's what Ned tells Barristan. He's
and
like, I've
he
seen
would
him
like
kill a
fuck
million
around with the
boars.
boar too.
Yeah, so like, I mean, it's not like this is out of character for him. So like, it's like, all right, let him fucking do his thing. He's gonna show off. And then by the time he had missed his thrust, there was literally nothing that could be done because the boar is too close to him at that point.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have most of the private conversation with Ned and Robert. We're gonna read that one, but just like I'll read the description of the wound real quick. So it says Eddard Stark lifted the blanket. They had done what they could to close him up, but it was nowhere near enough. The boar must have been a fearsome thing. It had ripped the king from groin to nipple with his tusks. The wine-soaked bandages the Grand Maester Pycelle had applied were already black with blood, and the smell of the wound was hideous. Ned's stomach turned. He let the blanket fall. Stinks, Robert said. The stink of death. Don't think I can't smell it. Bastard did me good, eh? But I paid him back in kind, Ned. The king's smile was terrible as his wound, his teeth red, drove a knife right through his eye. Asked him if I didn't. Ask him. So like, even on his deathbed, Robert just being classic Robert, and just like from fucking groin to nipple. And Renly says later that his entrails are literally hanging out
Before he killed the boar.
Yeah,
Before he
before he
killed the
killed
boar.
it.
That's ridiculous.
And Pycelle says that the wound happened 2 days before
2
they
days
got him
ago.
out.
Yeah,
and
so
he
I
said
don't know
there's
how
no-
they stuff his entrails back in. Like, all right, bud, here we
They
go.
probably burned it, right? Or what's it called? When
Cauterized?
Cauterized it?
I don't know, because I
Solder.
mean, it seems like that's the only thing you could do, but I think it's kind of just like,
Come on,
this is
for 2
fiction.
days?
I think it's kind of like this is fiction. Right? I think that's kind of how he lives. But that's what Pycelle says. And when Ned's like, how long does he have? Pycelle's like, dude, this guy should be dead like 3 days
Yeah.
ago. Like, are you
They
kidding me?
definitely. I mean, it's got to be weird. Like you stuff it back in and then burn it. I mean, I don't know. At that
can't
point,
be
it seems
good.
like they should have just like put him out of his misery. But he's the king.
Also, like I'm not like an avid hunter, but I go hunting like about once a year, 1 weekend a year with my dad. And like when you like learn how to like go hunting, like I go deer hunting, you're supposed to aim for both lungs because it's basically an insta kill. It's like the most like it's the cleanest way basically. But if you hit
What do
a
they call it?
deer,
The vital area, right? Or
yeah, the double lung and the heart is like the vital organs. But if you hit a deer in the stomach, it's the worst because when you go and skin that deer,
Shit's everywhere.
Well,
Shit's
there's not
everywhere, right?
Well,
it's-
sometimes there's shit everywhere, but it just
so
stinks.
yeah.
Like the inside of the stomach reeks, dude. Like even like a lot of times it's just like grass. Like you open it up and just like it looks like you open up like a bag of like lawnmower clippings, but it does not smell like lawnmower clippings. It's so bad.
Well,
and
it's
like
digested.
well, when you
Partially.
skin a
Acid
deer,
all
when you
over it.
skin a deer, if you don't hit it in the stomach, you basically cannot smell anything. It just you wouldn't even like think you wouldn't think anything of it. But if you hit it in the stomach, it's like you can't even get fucking near that thing. It's so like but when you walk up on it, you know where you hit it because you hit it in the wrong spot. So like when Ned talks about how the smell is horrible and Robert's even like it stinks, I have to think that like not only did his entrails hang out, but like some of his intestines or stomach got like pierced.
Well, it's 2 days old. It's rotting.
I get
It's
yeah, I
probably
guess
starting
that's
to,
true too.
like,
yeah,
to
there might be
die.
like bugs.
Like,
There's
it's
probably like bugs in
legitimately
there.
dying.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
the
is
skin
probably like
is
larvae
so-
and shit, dude. Ew.
I mean, that's the smell of death, right? It's like
Yeah,
Decay.
Rotted
decaying
flesh.
not good. Dog shit, as some would say.
Yeah, smells dog shit.
like that. Okay, Clow. Yeah, so Renly confirms like, yeah, fucking Robert stabbed it in the eye. We brought the body back, and Robert's like, we're gonna eat this son of a bitch. Well, I guess like you guys are gonna eat that son of a bitch. So then that's when Robert's like, everyone get out, and Cersei's like, no, like let me stay.
said
And he's
leave.
like, get the fuck out. And Pycelle's like, oh, let me give you some of this milk with a poppy. And he's like, I'll sleep soon enough. Get the fuck out of here. So I need to talk to Ned alone. So this is the quote I want to do. It's a long one.
Damn you, Robert.
Ned said when they were alone. His leg was throbbing so badly he was almost blind with pain. Or perhaps it was grief that fogged his eyes. He lowered himself to the bed beside his friend.
Why do you always have to be so headstrong?
Ah, fuck you, Ned.
The king said hoarsely.
I killed the bastard, didn't I?
A lock of matted black hair fell across his eyes as he glared up at Ned.
I'll do the same to you. Can't leave a man to hunt in peace. Sir Robar found me. Gregor's head? Ugly thought. Never told the hound. Let Cersei surprise him. Gods have mercy.
He muttered, swallowing his agony.
The girl. Daenerys. Only a child. You were right. That's why. The girl. The gods sent the boar. Sent to punish me.
The king coughed, bringing up blood.
Wrong. It was wrong. I. Only a girl. Varys. Littlefinger. Even my brother. Worthless. No one to tell me. No but you. Ned. Only you.
He lifted his hand, the gesture pained and feeble.
Paper and ink. There on the table. Write what I tell you.
Ned smoothed the paper out across his knee and took up the quill.
At your command, your grace.
This is the will and word of Robert of House Baratheon. The first of his name, King of the Andals, and the rest. Put in the damn titles. You know how it goes. I do hereby command Eddard of House Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and Hand of the King, to serve as my Lord Regent and Protector of the Realm upon my death, to rule in my stead until my son Joffrey does come of age.
Robert.
Joffrey is not your son, he wanted to say, but the words would not come. The agony was written too plainly across Robert's face. He could not hurt him more. So Ned bent his head and wrote. But where the king had said, my son Joffrey, he scrawled, my heir, instead. The deceit made him feel soiled. The lies we tell for love, he thought. May the gods forgive me.
What else would you have me say?
Say whatever you need to. Protect and defend. God's old and new. You have the words. Right? I'll sign it. You give it to the council when I'm dead.
Robert,
Ned said in a voice thick with grief.
you must not do this. Don't die on me. The realm needs you.
Robert took his hand, fingers squeezing hard.
You are such a bad liar, Ned Stark.
He said through his pain.
The realm knows. What a wretched king I've been. Bad as Ares. God spare me.
No,
Ned told his dying friend.
not so bad as Eris, your grace. Not near so bad as Eris.
Robert managed a weak red smile.
At least they will say this last thing. This I did right. You won't fail me. You'll rule now. You'll hate it worse than I did. But you'll do well. Are you done with the scribbling?
Yes, your grace.
Ned offered Robert the paper. The king scrawled his signature blindly, leaving a smear of blood across the letter.
The seal should be witnessed.
Serve the boar at my funeral feast.
Robert rasped.
Apple in its mouth, skin seared crisp. Eat the bastard. Don't care if you choke on him. Promise me, Ned.
I promise.
Promise me, Ned, Lyanna's voice echoed.
The girl,
The king said.
Daenerys. Let her live. If you can. If it... Not too late. Talk to them. Varys, Littlefinger. Don't let them kill her. And help my son, Ned. Make him be better than me.
He winced.
Gods have mercy.
They will, my friend. They will.
The king closed his eyes and seemed to relax.
Killed by a pig.
He muttered.
Ought to laugh, but it hurts too much.
Ned was not laughing.
Shall I call them back?
I think that's a great... I mean, obviously I don't do as good as... Who's the actor who plays...
I don't know his name, but it is a great scene.
I think it's Mark Addy. So good.
Kyle, are you excited to be able to watch season 1 soon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more interested in the show now than I was when it was on.
I gotcha.
That's
Put
good.
that out there.
The books are
I mean,
something.
I don't know. I guess now I'm gonna have
Don't you want to actually have a visual for what?
No, I that's the thing I don't want is I almost want to make Kyle listen to the show.
listen to the show.
I don't want him to get pictures of people in their head.
It's not that big of a deal.
Some of the characters are way closer, but I feel like a lot of the main things in this just hit what we talked about not last episode, the one I edited last. I think a great comparison of the books to the show is the Iron Throne in the show to the Iron Throne in the books.
That's the biggest difference.
It's not that big of a deal.
That's a metaphor. That's a metaphor. The show, the show covers the bases, right? That's a throne. Obviously, it's a powerful throne. It's a badass looking throne. But the fucking throne in the books just hits so much harder, right? And when you see the throne in the show, it's hard to get that fucking out of your head. And I'm not just talking about the throne. I'm talking about the whole thing. When you see the show, it's hard to get everything out of your head. It's hard to get the Eyrie out of your head. The Eyrie is way cooler than it is.
Nelson hates the show. Don't watch it.
I don't hate the show. The show's a good show. It's a good show. But I don't. That's what Kyle said is.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jeff's
He's already gonna read.
Jeff said, "Don't you want a visual?" Yeah, exactly. So that's
Kyle,
why I think it's okay
you can
to watch
the show
afterwards.
after we finish the 8th book or the 7th book.
Are we gonna be able to play DVDs or Blu-rays in the year 2057 when we finish this?
when
We'll get
book
there.
7 comes out. All right, back to this quote, Kyle. What are there's the one main thing in this quote.
Robert's dying.
Well, okay, obviously Robert's dying. Well, I
Ned's
guess
getting to
there's
be
two.
king,
I guess there's two
and-
main things. Three main things.
Joffrey's gonna be the heir.
Well, there's
Yeah,
a
I was gonna
switcheroo
say-
with the Joffrey heir thing. That's what I think is the main thing.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Then we knew Robert was dying. And then the other thing that I think is kind of main is he tries to call off the Daenerys
Yeah. The kill.
assassination.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, knowing the Daenerys side of it probably isn't the best decision. They should just go through with it at this point, I think.
What now that the Dothraki are kind of
Now
all
that I
fired
know
up
the side
already?
of it, yeah, the Dothraki and Viserys is dead or Viserys is dead. That would be the end of them.
Yeah, it would
Right,
be
the
basically the
Targaryens.
end of them. Yeah.
It's also weird that kind of going back. It's weird that when Robert finds out that Dany's pregnant. I mean, I guess it makes sense that he's okay, kill Dany. It's fucked up. She's 14, but does he ever mention Viserys anywhere there? Is it kill both of them? No, it seems like it's more kill the girl who's pregnant.
I think because the news came that she was marrying
A
the
Dothraki warlord.
Yeah, she's their connection. So if she's dead, then Viserys doesn't have shit. Kind of, I guess. I guess that makes sense.
I think that's a safe. But I mean, why wouldn't you be safe and kill both?
I mean, I guess I never thought about it until Kyle said that. Viserys is the actual threat because he's the one that would be the ruler.
When did Viserys get killed versus where we are now in the timeline?
Check.
He's also not that much of a threat, and I think they all know that too.
Viserys even knows
What
that?
they call him the Beggar King, right?
The
Or
cart-
something?
Yeah,
The
that's
cart-
what
the
the.
cart-
No,
King.
before that.
The Beggar
Swordfoot King.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
before that.
before the Dothraki, the Beggar King.
Yeah, so he was already kind of no real big deal. They weren't that worried about him. But her being married to, we just said, the Dothrakis, and then having a Dothraki child, that'll be a massive issue.
So it's about 2.5 weeks after. This takes place 2.5 weeks before Viserys dies. So they would not have known about Viserys'
Viserys
death
is
yet.
still alive? That's wild.
Yeah.
But either way,
Alright.
Danny
they
just
still
now
should have
over.
gone
This
through
is
with the
Danny's
assassination. Knowing what
of
we
Danny?
know.
Of Danny?
Yes.
Yeah.
Knowing what
Okay.
we know.
Well, I mean, Varys says that like he thinks Robert and
birds are flying.
Viserys both say that it might be too late to stop, but they'll do what they can.
Well,
So
spoiler alert, it's not. Or it is. Or no, it's
What?
not. She doesn't die, is what I'm trying to say.
how do you know that, Kyle?
Wow, way to spoil it for us, dude.
Maybe she's a zombie.
Yeah, maybe she's like a White Walker the entire like seasons
She
2
does
through
have
8.
white hair.
Let's have white
you
hair.
would never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still talks to 3 fucking people here. Let's get rolling.
All right, let's go. So Robert says it's cold in there. They bring everybody else back in. Servants start putting more wood on the fire.
He goes to sleep.
They get Renly and Pycelle to witness the
Milk of the
seal.
poppy.
The seal.
Yeah, he's like, give me something for the pain and let me die. Pycelle gives him the milk of the poppy. And the last thing that Robert says before he falls asleep, I will give Lyanna your love, Ned. Take care of my children for me. The words twisted in Ned's belly like a knife. For a moment, he was at a loss. He could not bring himself to lie. Then he remembered the bastards. Little Bara at her mother's breast, Maya in the Vale, Gendry at his forge, and all the others.
Like, there's a lot that just happened in here. So, like, Ned is fighting with himself the whole time, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He wasn't super pumped about having to change it to my heir and whatnot. And that's, like, not... I mean, his thing is all honor and, like, valor.
Right,
and,
yeah, now
you know, and,
he's
like,
lying and twisting words.
and to his dying
He's
best
finding
friend.
loopholes left and right.
He's
It's
twisting words.
loopholing. He's loopholing.
He's twisting
though,
words, yeah.
I don't know. You don't know that this isn't what Robert meant.
He
Like-
said, write what I said, and he didn't write
for that,
what he said.
No, for that he lied. For that, 100% Ned lied and it fucked up. He even said like the lies you tell for love, which is eerily similar to what Jamie says when he pushes Bran out the
Bran.
fucking window. The things I
Yeah.
do
But he
for
didn't
love.
know that. He doesn't know
No,
that.
I'm
so
not
it's
saying. I'm
kinda
not
weird.
saying he knows that, but I'm saying it's eerily similar. As an
It's
author,
almost
there
like
has to be a
George couldn't think
parallel
of a
there.
better sentence, huh?
Well, I mean, I think there's a parallel purpose.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah.
here he's not lying. But Kyle, the thing that I want to point out is when he's thinking of Robert's children, he thinks of little Bara at her mother's breast. Maya
But this is such
in
a fucking
the, Maya,
loophole, though,
listen,
because
Maya in the Vale.
he's
Did we cover that
Maya
already?
in
Maya
the Vale.
in the Vale.
He didn't. No, he didn't know.
I'm yelling it at you. Maya in the Vale. The one, the lady
The
who
girl
takes
who
Cat
led
up the
up
mountain
on the goat.
with the mules.
Oh, I didn't remember her.
Yeah. So, but Ned has
Well, we
mentioned a few
never really
times.
said like, "Hey, this is."
Yeah, we never pointed it out. I think Glow actually he might have actually said it in one
I was
of the
like,
earlier
is that?
episodes.
I think I was like, oh my god, is that? And
Yeah, we
you
had
got
an
stopped
epiphany.
myself.
Yeah, but like, I didn't realize that he actually says it ever. But I feel like I'm not spoiling you because I'm just telling you what's in the fucking book again.
Yeah, I mean, they just said it. So, like,
But yeah, so Maya is about 16 years old, and when Kat describes her, let me see if I have a description. Her dark hair was cropped short and straight around her head, and she wore riding leathers and a light shirt of silvered ringmail. That was her description. So her dark hair was cropped. Obviously, like, I don't think you were going to get it off that. But it's interesting that Ned knows that's who it is. And that it's just cool that like we've already met one of Robert's other, like when we're going through all these bastards of Robert, when Ned is literally
We've
like
met
his
3 of them
focus,
now,
his
right?
chapter is bastard. Catelyn in the middle of all that is also meeting one of Robert's bastards.
Gotcha.
So it's cool on a reread, but like obviously
Connects
you would
the
not
loop.
have, you would never have seen that. But like, I just liked how like Glow and I were yelling Maya in the Vale, and not that the point you were making wasn't valid. It was a good point, but like
I don't remember
that's
what
what I
my
was trying to
point
get to.
Ah.
You were just saying that like there's a lot of conflict in Ned, that how he's lying and like he feels like he's like making loophole like lies to his dying best friend on his deathbed. but-
also that the whole Robert thing sounded a lot like Yoda.
Yeah, because I
Varys-
mean, he had
Varys is bad. Danny, don't die.
Danny, don't die.
It was just like so
save
choppy.
girl if
and-
can.
Save
It's
girl
like
if can.
it's like Kevin from The Office. Why use many words when few words do trick?
Correct.
But yeah, like no, that's obvious. I mean, obviously that's a huge conflict with Ned is that he gets fucking lied. Like that's fucking. This is a horrible situation to be in. I mean, and he's even not lying. Like, I mean, I guess it's kind of in the same vein, but like, he's really conflicted as to whether to tell Robert about Joffrey, like not being his kid.
But he's already in pain, so he's lying out of love.
And
So we wanted to talk about the promise earlier, so that now I have something to say about it, and so I'm going to say it and cut you guys off before I forget, and now I'm going to forget. So I guess this makes me feel like his promise to Lyanna is probably having the same thing happened when he made it to her. Because they paralleled everything else all along. Like,
for sure. I mean, there's a ton of parallels
the three
here.
people and all that stuff. And I mean, he keeps saying it even. But like, so like, that's probably why he's still dreaming about all of this, is because he hasn't kept the promise in its fullest.
Okay. Kind of like he's not keeping Robert's promise,
like he's
because
doing the same thing now. Yeah. So he's twisting.
Because Robert
all this
told
stuff
him one thing, and he's like kind of keeping the promise in like a weird loophole-y way.
I mean, but you can't, like, at the same time, like, I mean, I don't fault the dude for not dumping all this stuff on him on his deathbed, you know. At the same time, like, the time has passed kind of to reveal a lot of these things. So
I'm going to cut you off like you just cut us off. To get back to, I was watching a video kind of like on some philosophy stuff, and it had to do with like, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's a long episode already, but like, would you want to know the day and time of your death?
No.
Absolutely not.
What else wouldn't you want to know, right? Like anytime anybody says, hey, can I tell you some information that you don't know? Would you want that if I can just give it to you for free? There's very little that information that you wouldn't just take outright. Why wouldn't you take that information? The point of the video that I saw, or like the end, I guess like the end they came up to, was the reason you don't want to know that is because it makes the rest of your life less happy, right? Like somehow it makes the rest of your life less, it like takes away something when
you're on a ticking clock.
When all of
yeah.
Well, what if I told you die at the age of 100?
It's still you know.
It's still there now. It's in the back of your mind. Like, oh, I only got 45 years to go.
Exactly. So somehow this information, opposed to most other information, which is only ever cumulative and additive to your life, it makes your life better, right? Most information makes your life better. Knowing something you didn't know before will make your life better. This does the opposite. It makes your life somehow worse. It's hard to put into words why, but it does.
Gives you an endpoint. And so like now as you live, most people live, it's like more free and you're invincible. And
so
when
they had a follow-up question.
Not,
there was a follow-up question. And none of us have kids, so it might be hard for us to make an answer for this question. But the question was, if you're on your deathbed, right? So say you didn't know when you were going to die, but like now you got an illness and you're going to die in like 2 days, right? The doctor's like, you're going to die. Like there's nothing we can do. You're going to die in 2 days. And your children all die in a car accident. Like they're all on the way to see you, and they all die in a car accident. Or they're not even on the way to see you. They go somewhere else and they die in a car accident.
Do you want to know that?
And your wife comes up to you and you're like, how are the children? Do you want her to lie to you in that moment? You have 2 days to live. Do you want the truth there, or do you want her to lie?
Well, I think that's this, and I think the answer is no.
That
you
is
want to
this.
lie.
That is exactly this, and that's why, like,
You
when I
want to
saw that
lie,
video, I
obviously.
immediately thought about this.
Like, why would you need to know that? That information does nothing of value for you.
I'm 100% in your guys' camp for the other question. Would you want to know the date and time of your death? No fucking way. This one, I don't know. Right? My life's already shit. I'm gonna die in 2 days. I'm not gonna die. I don't know. Maybe I am. Like, it's hard. It's situational, I guess. But like, I feel like that one I would want to know no matter what. I would want to know the well-being of my children. It's hard because I don't actually have children. But I feel like that is 100% this, right? That's 100% what's happening in this chapter. And I think that's a way harder decision to make, especially.
Happy, yeah. I think that's just super down news, and that is my opinion. But
yeah, I mean,
dude, to not
I agree
know
with you,
that.
Cal.
If it's 2 days, what's the harm? It's a harmless lie, and that's what Ned's telling himself too. But that is not who Ned is. Like Ned
I
is
got
a
you.
truth teller.
The other thing is, I am not religious, like basically at all. But Ned thinks later in this chapter, like, I hope Robert in the afterlife finds out the truth, right? Because he thinks he's like, men will think that I betrayed my best friend and that I disinherited his children. But I know the gods will know the truth, and I hope that Robert in the afterlife finds the truth. Wouldn't Robert be pissed that Ned lied to him? Right. So now I go back to the other question.
Not on his deathbed,
if my wife told me your children are fine while she knowingly know that they were all fucking dead, and then I get to fucking heaven and I find out my children are there waiting for me, I'm like, what the fuck was that bitch doing lying to me like that? You know, like that kind of pisses. I mean, I guess you're already fucking dead, so who cares? You get pissed off, but I don't know. It's a complicated. It's like fucking. You can think about this forever, and like I've spent like a while thinking about this, and it's weird shit. I don't know. I don't like it. It messes with your head because it's counterintuitive to everything else. You want to know most everything in life. You want to know.
It doesn't really matter. You're on your deathbed. Your kids are dead. Why lie? It's the
And
reality.
we're saying we're on Ned's side for lying to him.
And
So
I'm saying I don't know.
I'm not on his side.
Yeah, I'm with Jeff. I don't know. I'm not taking a 100% stance either way, but I'm definitely seeing I think I lean the other way.
The problem here is this is an existential question, and we can argue it forever.
So I think the reason Ned is right, and the reason it's different than the other scenario we were talking about, is Robert still has the power to do some fucking crazy shit, right? If Ned tells Robert, he could be like, kill all those 3 kids and kill Cersei, and Ned is honor bound to obey him, right?
Would that be such a bad thing?
No, but I think Ned, who's super against killing children, right? I think Ned, who's super against killing children, thinks that if he tells Robert, he thinks that if he tells Robert that is a possible outcome.
For sure.
So is Ned doing this for the betterment of Robert so that Robert doesn't have to die knowing this? Or is he doing this for the betterment of himself so that he doesn't have to carry out whatever ridiculous command Robert spews off? I think this is definitely not 100% selfish decision, but a way more selfish decision than it lets on here.
That's fair. I didn't think of it in that aspect. That wasn't how I was coming at it at all.
Me either until I saw that video about this, and I'm like, it's basically the exact same thing, but there's a selfish aspect to Ned because again, I say no, you don't know, but we all have a good idea about what Robert's command would be if you told him this.
Well, we know what Ned thinks the command is going to be. So that's why Ned is...
He should have told him after he wrote the seal, after he wrote the letter.
I mean, Robert can be like, hey, give me that, and throws that in the fire. I mean, but I see what
But
you're
here's
saying.
the other thing. In Ned's plan, so Ned tells Robert the kids are bastards. Robert wants to kill the kids to go to war. Fine. So whatever. Ned doesn't tell him. So his plan is later on, if we can move on to that, is to tell Stannis about the kids. And they pretty much know Stannis is going to want to go to war and kill the kids. So it's the same fucking thing at the end of the day.
No, 100% agree with you that either way, the same outcome happens. But Ned does not think that, right? Ned thinks that everything's going to be fine. I'm going to take this letter and Stannis is going to come and he'll be king and nobody's going to put up a fight. He thinks all Tywin and Jaime will be pissed. But he is way more naive than I think we are as readers.
The problem is Ned doesn't think anything through. He just thinks on the face surface of things. Okay, I'll tell Robert this. But he doesn't think cause and effect of everything afterwards.
Not everything, but I think he takes some of it into it.
Come on. He's
he underestimates.
He's playing checkers, not chess.
Yeah, he's just this is the honorable thing. I got to do it. Not thinking what that thing's going to spurt off of. He doesn't think things through off of face value.
Ned's playing checkers, Cersei's playing chess, and Varys and Littlefinger are playing.
They're playing 4D chess
or whatever that.
Don't say 4D.
Go. You know that game Go?
Yeah.
Backgammon is easier than chess. I don't know anything about Go. I don't know if it's harder or not.
Mancala.
I don't know if that's easy. I think that's easier than chess too.
Ned leaves the chambers and he immediately talks to Fat Tom and Kane. He's like, "Yo, guys, scour all the men. You got to find Littlefinger."
You're way ahead, bro.
So the first off, he comes right out and we have the conversation with Barristan about, and we kind of talked about it earlier, how Barristan feels guilty and we covered this earlier. Ned has seen Robert do this 100 times, and Barristan feels like he's still just seems like he feels like he broke his vow,
failed the king.
But Ned's like, you can't protect a man from himself. And that's when Varys shows up. And what's the whole deal? What's Varys' whole thing here, Kyle?
He's pretty much poking and this was planned, essentially. The
that's
Lannisters,
weird.
The Lannisters were part of this.
So Ned tells Barristan, he's like, the king even blamed it on him being too drunk. He blamed it on the wine. And Varys is like, well, who gave him the wine?
Yeah. And that was kind of what I was thinking the whole time too, is that how could somebody have done this to him? And this was definitely the plot that makes the most sense, is just get him super drunk.
100%. But even if that is the plot, it's not a foolproof plan, right? There's no guarantee that he dies.
It's not, but it's a good way to try and get rid of him.
Okay. Speed the process a little bit.
Yep. So Varys says that, and then they talk about which squire was it? And Ned thinks about how his squires, when he sent him to get the breastplate sweatshirt, were both Lannisters, and then Varys is like, oh, he's the older one, Lancel,
16-year-old.
Something around that, yeah. And Varys says, I know the lad well, stalwart boy, Sir Kevin Lannister's son, nephew to Lord Tywin, and cousin to the Queen. I hope the dear lad, the dear sweet lad, does not blame himself. Children are so vulnerable in their innocence of their youth. So yeah, kind of what Kyle was saying. He's like poking, like, hey, this guy who's like connected to all the Lannisters was also the one who made sure that he was super drunk when the boar showed up.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, and this is why you do this is. So what? Like, I mean, the king asked for wine. He's going to get him wine because he's a servant.
That's my thought too. And there's a scene in this show which makes me think, like, I don't think it's a spoiler to talk about the show. There's a scene in the show that's not in the books where Robert, he's just like in his room and he's like, wine. And Lancel comes up and like fills up his cup halfway. And then like the wineskin runs out. And Robert like flips a shit on him. Like,
Yeah.
where the fuck is there? Like, why is there no more wine? So like, can you blame him? Like if this guy,
Yeah.
if Robert's like wine and the guy doesn't have wine, Robert's going to be fucking pissed, especially as he gets drunker and drunker.
So my thing is, I think he's insisting it though in this situation.
Lancel's like, oh, sir, don't you want some more wine type deal?
Yes,
that could be
yes.
the case too. But Barristan doesn't let on to that at all.
And Varys
Varys
doesn't.
does though.
Wait, but Varys wasn't
Varys-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why is he pinning it like why is he, I guess.
Because
Why
he's playing
exactly?
Go and Ned's back here playing checkers. That's why.
True.
But
I've never
I mean,
played
no, I'm
Go.
not. I'm not saying
what
that.
game is Go?
It's like it's a game that's hard. It was harder for AIs to master than chess. It's like I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
No.
That's all I know.
4D
About it.
chess.
There's a good documentary about it, about the AI that beat it, but it doesn't matter. I definitely think there's validity to what Varys is saying, but I also think that kind of like what I was saying before, like it could go both ways. This could be either Varys pointing something out to Ned, like,
He's just
hey, you're not
planting
paying
seeds of
attention to
doubt,
this,
for sure.
or planting seeds of doubt for something like, hey, did you think of this? Even though it's completely not true. Like it could go both ways.
They're also probably just like, Ned's so fucking dumb.
He'll believe
If
whatever
we
tell
give him any little bit
Yeah.
of evidence in any direction, he's just gonna fucking pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, for sure.
He's like,
There was a squirrel that he tripped over. I think the squirrel hat was wearing a red doublet with a
squirrel.
golden lion on it. Like, yeah, like you could do fucking. I think Ned would kind of bite on anything right now, but I think it is a valid point, but half valid.
But I mean, he's also surrounded by him. Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
of course, a Lannister was there.
So yeah, Ned. We talked about this too, but Ned real quick says like, oh, speaking of innocent children, Robert said Daenerys he doesn't want her killed anymore.
Those birds have
Fix
flown.
that shit. He said those birds have flown, but I'll do what I can do. So yeah, this is when he crosses the bridge and he has the conversation with Renly. You want to talk about that real quick?
Can I ask, is he gonna? And I mean, I don't know that you have to answer
is
that. but
Varys
is
gonna?
Gonna what?
gonna stop this? Yeah, like I mean, he has something to do with it.
So my answer to this will be we do not get Varys chapters. So we don't really know
We
what
don't know.
Varys is going to do, right?
That's fair.
Like the most we really know what Varys does is what he tells Ned he does.
And I think
here
we
he
can
says he's
leave it
gonna
at
do
that.
it. Yeah, so
But he
So-
says, "We may be too late. Sorry, like I'll try." But
doesn't
like,
I actually don't have the notes on the last page, which is Littlefinger conversation. Doesn't Littlefinger say he'll do something to try and stop it too? Or do they not talk about it?
I don't
We'll get
think
there.
they talk about it, but
I don't think they
we
talk
could
about it.
reread
Yeah.
it.
so then then they help him across a bridge.
Yeah, they're going across the
And-
bridge. Jeff, go ahead.
Renly runs out from Mayor's Holdfast, and he like tells Kane and Tommer to get away so we can talk, and they do. So then Renly's like immediately like, "Look, I've got 30 men like in my guard. Get your guard."
He's like, I got 30 men and I got a lot of friends. I can get you 100 by the morning. 100
And
swords by the
let's-
morning.
Let's take this thing over. Like, we've got to strike now. And Ned's like, "What are you talking about? That's treason." And he's like, "Dude, every minute you sit back, every second you sit back, Cersei is plotting and moving her pieces." And
Yeah.
I think it literally becomes to the point where Robert's going to die. You've got this piece of paper, but Cersei's the queen. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, so what he
then?
says is whoever
Yeah.
holds the king holds the kingdom, right? That's a Renly.
Yeah, he says
Renly
that.
says that. So basically
Yeah.
he says I got you 100 men, and he's like what you need to do is you need to get all those kids away from Cersei. Cuz like and again,
Yeah.
Renly probably doesn't
Pretty
know
much
that-
make the kids his wards.
Most likely does not
Yeah.
know that they're not Roberts, but like regardless of not any like Renly is like the viewpoint of everybody else in the fucking world.
Like, you can't
These-
let her be in charge.
Yeah, like if you come out and say like these guys aren't her kids, like there's a chance that she just like fights you, and that word like either never gets out or like no one believes.
I'm not
going
going to say the whole world. I'm going to say in the small council. Like, none of the people really know who Cersei is. Like,
Well,
the
no,
people.
I'm saying like
It's not like she has a negative reputation.
No, I'm saying Renly. I'm saying Renly has the same viewpoint on the children as the whole world, where he doesn't know that they're bastards, right? Ned knows they're bastards.
Sure.
So like him saying these children are important, Ned is probably thinking, not really, because they're not actually his kids, but that's not what everyone else thinks.
Right. And I thought you meant more of like everyone has the same opinion of Cersei being a bitch and she shouldn't have control of the kids.
And kind of like we were talking about in like the Ned chapter where the peasants were talking about Gregor Clegane, like Jeff, this is a point you brought up. Like when there's like a conflict and one person says one thing and one person says another thing, there's not really like ever proof. Like Ned doesn't have proof of this. He can like point to the hair color or whatever, but there's no proof. Like, is he going to get the commoners to back him? Is he going to who's he going to get to back him on this one? Maybe some of the small council people who are smarter, but I don't know. Kyle, thoughts?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I'm not even, it doesn't even have to do with that in any, like, he's just like, she's still going to bend them to her will. It's still going to be her kingdom in the end. Like, you can't let that happen. They all know how she is. Like, I think Renly is quite aware of who she is.
So one interesting point I'm gonna point out, kind of like what Jeff was saying, is the first thing Renly comes up and he says is he's like, that paper, Robert named you Lord Protector, right? But he doesn't even wait for an answer, right? So like that almost doesn't matter to Renly. It's like it doesn't matter what Robert said. It matters who has Joffrey. At least that's what seems to matter more to Renly.
Well, yeah, because in the end, that's who's going to make it.
Exactly.
Like it doesn't matter because in the interim, even if Ned does whatever he wants, nothing's going to change. He's still the heir to the throne, technically.
But Ned's like fucking hill that he's going to die on, maybe literally the entire fucking book, is we do not fucking do shit to innocent children. Right? So he's like, and that's his argument.
I'm not pulling those kids out of bed.
I'm not going to dishonor Robert in his final hours of life by pulling innocent, frightened children out of their beds. And it says, Lord Renly took a step back, taunt as a bowstring. Every moment you delay gives Cersei another moment to prepare. By the time Robert dies, it may be too late for the both of us. Then we should pray Robert does not die. Small chance of that, said Renly. Sometimes the gods are merciful. The Lannisters are not. Lord Renly turned away and went back across the moat to the tower where his brother lay dying.
Yeah, like I said, he knows exactly who Cersei is. So, like, and the Lannisters.
Yeah, so that's the difference between the small council and the commoners. Is everyone in the fucking Red Keep probably knows what Cersei's
I think the Lannisters probably have a reputation. I don't think that's
even in Westeros.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think that's
probably a fair
I mean,
point.
I think a lot of people know about the whole.
I don't think to the same extent.
The rebellion and the whole situation with the kids, probably.
Yeah, about the Lannisters killing the Rhaegar's
and Jaime
kids.
Lannister killed the king, and he was a king's guy.
That's a good point. Yeah, Lannisters probably don't have a great reputation in the realm. Yeah, okay, so Glow, this is the part that you were talking about. He gets back to his chambers.
So Ned gets back to his chambers, and he talks to Tommen and Cain again, I believe. Is this where he talks to him about the kids leaving, and he says double the guard?
So he has Cain go find Littlefinger. Yep, he has Cain go find Littlefinger. He asks Tommen.
Use all the people you can to find Littlefinger.
Yeah, he has Tommen. He's like, hey, Tommen, I told you to like figure out who was going to take my children back on the Wind Witch. And Tommen's like, yeah, I'm going to send 10 men, and Porther's going to have the command. And Ned's like, nah, fuck that. 20 men, and you're going to have the command. And Tom's like, tell you the truth, I'm glad you said that. I don't want to fucking be in King's Landing any longer than I have to.
I miss my wife.
I want to see my wife.
Yeah. And he tells him one other thing, that Tommen has one other thing to do while he's taking the kids back.
Dragonstone.
Go stop by Dragonstone.
Dragonstone, that's right. And
Does he already have the letter written? Or?
No, he writes it right after this.
Yeah. So I guess he said, I'm going to hand you a letter.
He's like, I'm going to give you a letter. And he's like, you cannot give it to anyone but Stannis. He's like, I don't care how you do it. Do not give it to his wife. Do not give it to his steward. Do not give it to his captain of guard. Put it directly in Stannis' hands and nobody else. But then when he goes to write the letter, he says, it says Ned goes write the letter to Stannis. To his grace, Stannis of the House Baratheon, he wrote, by the time you receive this letter, your brother Robert, our king these past 15 years, will be dead. He was savaged by a boar whilst hunting in the Kingswood, ... Then it says like he chooses his word carefully because like he knows that Tywin and Jaime are like rash, or that they're going to like fight, and Stannis is like weary ever since Jon Arryn died, but he needs him to come to King's Landing. So like we don't really know what the wording is, but it's like, I guess meant to convince Robert or Stannis to come to King's Landing, even though he knows
and bring his warships too, because he mentioned something about bringing his warships to fight just in case the Lannister army does march on King's Landing.
Yeah, bring all his power.
So anyway, like he's already, like, Stannis obviously fled because he didn't want any part of this because he was worried about like what was going on in King's Landing. but he has to get him back. Is really what's coming here essentially from this letter. Is like that's the only option. Is he has to come back.
Stannis has to.
Yeah, and I think Ned's smart enough that I think he can get that. I know you guys like to say that he's naive or dumb or whatever, but I think he's.
I don't think he's stupid.
So what do you think he said in
just,
his letter?
I think he's basically he's playing with one hand tied behind his back because he's always so honorable, and I think he knows that. I think he knows that he's at a disadvantage because he plays the game fairly and no one else does.
Yes,
I don't
sure.
think that's a surprise to him. I think he's kind of he knows he's at a disadvantage, I guess.
And you had said it last chapter or the last time that Cersei said Game of Thrones, but then he said it to himself again here. So that was another time it came up. But anyway, yeah, you're right. That's what he's thinking is
yeah,
like.
well, he's thinking maybe I should have listened to Renly and should have taken him up on that offer. Like I might need that depending on what the Cersei decides to do. Yeah. So he's just thinking about he can't wait to be back in Winterfell, chilling with Cat because once Stannis takes the throne, he probably won't keep him on his hand, right? That's what
he was trying to get his way
I
out.
think
Yeah,
Ned's
that's
happy
exactly
about that too. He's like,
Ned,
fuck
yeah. Ned's like, I can't wait to go back and chill, hear Bran laugh, go hawking with Robb. Watch Rick and Plane, sleep with Catelyn, get a little.
None of the girls. He doesn't give a shit about any of the girls.
Nudge. Well, because
he's with the
got the
girls.
girls with him.
Yeah, but
He
he can
wants to
still
see the
like,
kids.
hey, let's go ride horses with Arya, or
No, he said
Well, he
like
can
he's
do that
missing his
now.
time with those kids.
no, he can't. He's got a broken leg.
Well, he shouldn't let a horse fall on it.
So Littlefinger enters.
And he calls it.
He congratulates Ned.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
And
What do you congratulate me for? The king's dying. Yeah, but you're in charge.
and Ned's eyes flick to his letter, and he's like, "And how do you know that?" And he's like, "Well, Varys hinted at it, and you just confirmed it." Again, they're playing Go, and Ned's back here playing checkers. I would say chess, but I feel like there's an intermediate. Like they're so far off, and like
No,
they're
he's
playing
playing
different
War,
games.
like the card game War. So he's still talking to Littlefinger, and he's basically going over his plan with Littlefinger almost. Like,
Yeah, he tells him. He says pretty much like they're not his kids, is what he says, and like he's like, yeah,
He's
no
straight
shit,
up with
like
them, yeah.
shocking. He said, like, and it says shocking. He said in a tone that suggested he was not shocked at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the girl as well, no doubt.
Again, it doesn't make sense because he already knew because he took Ned to the brothel.
Yeah,
Oh,
he has
he's known for way longer
Duh.
than that.
Like,
So I guess Kyle, why? And
why have they not had that
talked about
conversation?
I don't even
Already.
Did we have this conversation? Because I
'Cause
don't
Ned
know
doesn't
the answer.
wanna
Why, if
reveal his
Littlefinger knows,
secrets.
if Littlefinger knows, why does Littlefinger not tell Ned immediately?
We talked about this in one of the last Ned ones.
And what did we say?
Is like Littlefinger is out for Littlefinger, and that information is information that's going to get him killed if he shares it.
Gotcha. If it like if like Ned ends up sharing, like Littlefinger told me, blah blah blah. But if Ned comes out like
he's-
organically,
he wants nothing to do with that. Sure, I think a lot more than just Littlefinger know, or at least have hints, and they just like are not as threatening as Ned or John Aaron were with the information, because these men were righteous bound, where the other ones were willing to play the games and.
And try to win.
And I still don't know. I fucking love Littlefinger because I don't know what the fuck he's up to. But he says, so
I don't. He's such a weasel, man.
I love it. I love it because he has to be. He's so smart. He has to be up to something, but it's so unobvious what it is. Like even if you find out part of his plan, you're never gonna figure it all out. So he says, even the girl must be a bastard, right? And he's like, so then when Robert dies, and Ned's like, well, it goes to Stannis. And Littlefinger's like, unless, and Ned's like, no, there is no fucking unless here. Like that's
Unless
the law.
you don't want him to be in charge.
He's like, well, you
So
have
now
to
what do you
help
think he
Stan-"
said
He's
in the
like,
letter?
Without you, Stannis doesn't say anything. Well, I mean, the letter's already written, right?
Yeah, so I think he tells Stannis in the letter that, yo, you're
The
going to
letter
be
can
king.
be burned.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, yeah, in the letter, he's
For
definitely
sure.
like, hey,
And
you're
that's
king.
how it's going to go.
He's definitely telling him.
I mean,
well,
no,
he's
no.
going to tell him
The
at
only-
least
the only thing we know of
kids
the letter.
are
Think about this.
illegitimate.
The only thing we know of the letter starts off to his
Robert's
grace.
dead.
No, to his grace, Stannis of the House Baratheon. His grace is the term for the
the
king.
term for the king,
King.
yeah.
So like he's calling him king in the very first line. He's saying, "You're the king now."
and he says Robert's dead, so 2 and 2 together, Robert's dead, so now you're
I
Grace.
bet he tells him.
He
like,
has
there
to
is
tell
no
him.
heir.
I mean,
Well, he's going to tell him.
otherwise
yeah.
it's just super vague about why
And
he's calling
that's,
him grace.
that's
right?
why he wants it to only go to Stannis. It can't go to anybody else.
For sure.
It's because there is bombshell information in it.
Also, kind of like what was Tyrion's thought process when he got captured at the end? He's like, yeah, I'm captured, but everyone in this inn knows that my dad has way more fucking money than anybody else in the realm. So how do they benefit most from this? By helping Kat or by going to tell my dad, right? It's the same thing.
Let's just hit on this real quick because we already mentioned it. There's no way of actually proving this. So Stannis gets his letter and what? Everyone just is going to be like, oh, okay, that letter says it. Stannis is king. Like, come on, we're still getting war.
Well, I think so. Stannis was with John Arryn at the brothel. I'm pretty sure.
No, he said they'd back down, right?
Well, no.
If I recall correctly,
Glow's right. When
so
Littlefinger,
Stannis knows too.
Yeah, Littlefinger told him that. Well, he doesn't. We don't know if he knows, but Littlefinger definitely said that John Arryn and Stannis visited a brothel together because Ned thought it was weird that Stannis would visit brothels after he tried to ban brothels or something like that. So
yeah,
you're right, Glow. He definitely mentioned that, but it's like it's not a full proof that he knows, but he was involved.
You're right,
in the
though, Glow. He definitely knows.
He probably knows.
There's no proof. Yeah. It's the same as
but now that he has a
star
put aside,
he bailed when
joins...
Lysa bailed too.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. What? But Kat was with Lysa, and she never mentioned this.
I didn't say Lysa knew.
Well, you would. I guess. I thought that was.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought.
I was assuming
that you were assuming that, but
he probably sent her away, or somebody sent her away.
He was probably like, damn, they just killed John for knowing this info. They're going to try and kill me too.
So hold on. They might have left for different reasons. Stannis might have left for this reason, but we're pretty sure, at least our theory before any of this bastard shit was we thought Lysa left because they were trying to foster Robin at Castle Rock. True. Which is a good reason for her to leave whether or not she knows about this.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. Leave it at that because that's all I should know.
Ned's basically questions Littlefinger. He's like, do you have no honor? Do you not a shred of honor? He's like, at least a shred.
I have a shred.
He's like, at least a shred. And so he says, hear me out. Stannis is no friend of you. Jeff, you want to do this one? Who's got to give Littlefinger voice?
I'll read it. Hear me out. Stannis is no friend of yours, nor of mine. Even his brothers can scarcely stomach him. The man is iron, hard and unyielding. He'll give us a new hand and a new council for a certainty. No doubt he'll thank you for handing him the crown, but he won't love you for it. And his assent will mean war. Stannis cannot rest easy on the throne until Cersei and her bastards are dead. Do you think Lord Tywin will sit idly while his daughter's head is measured for a spike? Castle Rock will rise, and not alone. Robert found in him the pardon men who served King Aerys, so long as they did him fealty. Stannis is less forgiving. He would not have forgotten the siege of Storm's End, and the Lords Tyrell and Redwyne dare not. Every man who fought beneath the Dragon Banner or rose with Balon Greyjoy will have good cause to fear. Seat Stannis on the Iron Throne, and I promise you, the realm will bleed. Now look at the other side of the coin. Joffrey is but 12, and Robert gave you the regency, my lord. You are the hand of the king and the protector of the realm. The power is yours, Lord Stark. All you need to do is reach out and take it. Make your peace with the Lannisters. Release the imp. Wed Joffrey to your Sansa. Wed your younger girl to Prince Tommen, and your heir to Marcella. It will be 4 years before Joffrey comes of age. By then he will look to you as a second father. And if not, well, 4 years is a good long while, my lord. Long enough to dispose of Lord Stannis. Then, should Joffrey prove troublesome, we can reveal his little secret and put Lord Renly on the throne.
Kyle, what do you think of Littlefinger's analysis of the situation and proposition to Ned here?
He's in it for him, man. He even says it right here. He says, we'll give us a new hand and a new council.
New council,
that's the only thing he says about it, but that's really all it is that's all he's doing here is he's trying to make sure that he stays in power.
But he makes a good point, and
that's how he does this. Well, that's his point. No, it's not a good point. The honorable thing is still Lord Stannis. No,
I'm not saying it's not honorable, but is it the smart thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Because do you think any of this other stuff's going to happen? Like he wed all his kids to these other land. Like, why would he do that? First off,
I don't think he would do that.
And then Renly. Oh yeah, then we'll just make Renly the king. No, that's not going to be what happens.
So one of the next things that he says is like, when Littlefinger's like, why are you so against this? He's like, you forget they cut my son Bran, or they tried to kill son. Yeah, they sent a man to cut my son's throat.
You forget John Aaron, you forgot Jory Castle, and you forget this, and it's Dagger.
So I
that
know
he
this
pulls
doesn't
out.
100% apply, but again, I'm going back to like another thing. This isn't philosophy. This one's economics. Does anybody know what the sunk cost
Fallacy?
fallacy? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's a gambler's fallacy where it's like, well, I've already spent $1,000. What's another $100?
Exactly.
I better keep playing to keep winning.
That's the
to try and win it back.
So I 100% don't agree in the sunk cost fallacy, but the sunk cost fallacy says that it's like an actual economic thing. It says when you're making any business decision for the future, you should never consider anything in the past that you've invested, right? So it's like if you've already spent like 200 towards a project that you thought would cost 150, and now you need 10 more to finish it, you should never be like, oh, I already spent 200. I'm not going to finish this now that there's 10 more dollars, right? You should only think about what does from where I'm at to where the goal is get me. And Ned is thinking, again, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but by keeping all this shit like in his mind, like what do they, Jeff? What do you tell D-backs on the field after a bad play?
Have a short memory.
Have a short memory. You gotta have a short memory. Don't remember
Next
what
play
happened
is the
last
most
time.
important play.
You gotta have a fucking short memory.
That's
What
what
is
I tell
best
them.
from you from this point
Next
on?
play is the most important
Next
play.
play is the most exactly. That's the fucking sunk cost fallacy in football terms. Like it doesn't matter what the fuck happened in the past. How do you put yourself in the best position from where you are? And I think Ned has and again, honor bound is what makes this his problem. But that is one of Ned's biggest problems. I disagree with Kyle that what Littlefinger is saying here, I think Ned 100% could pull off. He could marry all his children to all the Lannisters, and Sansa would be the queen, and they'd be in a great, not a great spot, but they'd be in a better spot than they would otherwise.
It also doesn't make sense.
He could, but it's not.
One of the other
and
reasons
also
that
he
I
knows
think
Joffrey's a little
Why would
shit.
that be in anybody? Like,
Well,
no.
one of the other reasons I don't think Ned considers this is because unlike Littlefinger, Ned isn't just trying to climb the ladder. His family's already in a good spot. He doesn't need Sansa to be queen, right? Like he's happy with like going back to Winterfell and just living out a happy life. Like that's good for them, right? Littlefinger is trying to climb the ladder. He's like, hey, if you're trying to climb the ladder, this is how you do it. But what does Cersei say? What's the fucking title of this book?
If you play the Game of Thrones, you live or die.
Kyle, do you know?
Die.
Kyle, do you know anything about what happens to Ned in this book?
He dies.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing that doesn't make sense, though. Littlefinger's like, oh, in 4 years, if shit goes bad, we'll just tell him then that he's a bastard.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I
You
said.
can't
That's not
do
going to
that.
happen.
You
Yeah, that's
can't
not
do that.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, that's
Like, oh, well, we were cool with him, but now he's 16, so fuck him. He's a bastard.
That was the end of my
What?
thing there. It's like there's no way
What?
that they're just going to make Renly in charge like out of nowhere. Like he's
Fuck this
feeding
guy. We don't like him. He's a
this
bastard.
Slightly plausible bullshit so that he can get his way.
That's like kind of what people, real quick, that's kind of what people think is going on with Dr. Disrespect right now, where Dr. Disrespect just got paid a huge contract by Twitch to stay on Twitch. And then like 2 weeks later, the biggest competitor of Twitch goes under and gets sold. And then like 2 days after that, they drop Dr. Disrespect for breaking terms of service. Most people think he broke terms of service way back when, and they just use it now to get out of this $50 million contract. And that's why no one fucking knows what happened, like what he did to break TOS. Because if they say, oh, he did something like 2 months ago or like 2 years ago, it makes them look like huge fuckwads for not coming out with it right away, right? Like, well, we're going to let this guy ride because it benefits us. Oh, now it doesn't benefit us anymore. You're gone. Which is the exact same thing Littlefinger's saying here. It's like, whenever it stops benefiting us, we just show it up.
Yeah, and again, you've got no contracts, you've got no DNA tests, you've got no nothing. So it's all hearsay.
Hearsay, yeah. Oh, well, this book tells me that the lineage, they should have brown hair.
They got Bran. He doesn't know that yet. But
Bran?
he's got Bran.
What about
They do have
Bran?
Bran.
Bran seen it. He
See
saw
what?
him doing the bumping
that's
uglies.
true.
The
But
Windows radio.
But Bran doesn't remember that.
Yeah, Brandon.
Not yet. That's what I said. Not
Okay.
yet. He's gonna. That was one of my predictions. He's gonna get there.
Okay.
In his dream, he remembered, kind of, sort of, in a way.
He starts talking about he needs help. He needs men on his side. He needs protection because the Lannisters have all this guard. He's got barely any men. Renly's got 30. He needs a city watch. So it pretty much comes down to like, oh, Ned, this kills you to ask me. So I'll spare you the
force you to
pleasure
say
of
it.
not asking me. I'll buy.
He's like, I called
this
you here because
city watch for you.
Kat promised me that you would help me, or because you promised Kat that you would help us. He's like, and this is like, I need you
to love you
most now.
Or Catelyn. And Littlefinger is basically all right, fine, I'll do it for you. I'll get the city cloaks. I'll spend 6,000, 2,000 to the one guy, 2,000 to another person, 2,000 to the ranks or something like that.
It's a third. He said, yeah, I guess it is 2,000.
Yeah, it's 6,000, so 2,000 here, 2,000 there, 2,000 there.
And he says he thinks he could do it for less, but he doesn't want to gamble.
What's his deal with the knife? Doesn't he like pick up the knife and throw it at the wall or something like that?
No, he's like spinning
and he's
it.
like, and this whole war, he like spins it around, and then it's like, who's in charge of everyone with the city watch? And it happens to land on him. He's like, that's right, it's me.
Me, because I pay him.
They follow the man who pays them.
I must have the gold cloak. City watch is 2,000 strong, sworn to defend the castle, the city, and the king's peace. But when the queen proclaims one king and the hand another, whose peace do they protect? Lord Peter flicked the dagger with his finger, setting it spinning in place. Round and round it went, wobbling as it turned. When at last it slowed to a stop, the blade pointed at Littlefinger. Why, there's your answer, he said, smiling. They follow the man who pays them. He leaned back and looked Ned full in the face with his gray-green eyes bright with mockery. You wear your honor like a suit of armor, Stark. You think it keeps you safe. But all it does is weigh you down and make it hard for you to move. Look at you now. You know why you summoned me here. You know what you want to ask me. You know what you want to ask me to do. You know it has to be done, but it's not honorable. So the words stick in your throat. For a moment, Ned was so angry that he did not trust himself to speak. I don't make you say it, but that would be cruel. So have no fear, my good lord, for the sake of the love I bear for Catelyn. I will go to Janos Slynt this very hour and make certain that the city watch is yours. 6,000 gold pieces should do it. A third for the commander, a third for the officers, a third for the men. We may be able to buy them for half that much, but I prefer not to take chances. Smiling, he put the dagger up and offered it to Ned. Hilt first. Littlefinger is, I'm saying it right now, I don't know if I think before this, my favorite character was a character that Kyle hasn't even met yet. He's number 2 now. Littlefinger is back to number 1. He's just so good.
Fuck this guy.
All right, Kyle, let's get some predictions.
I'm against that. He's just a worm.
Before we get into predictions, putting down this chapter, I wanted to continue reading. Kyle, I don't know how you felt. Is that how you felt when you finished this chapter? Like, oh my god, now things are getting emotions.
I know I'm not allowed to, so like...
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, did you want to? Like, even me, I, like, flipped the next...
He actually has self-control, unlike you, Glow, who can't fucking stop. Have a little self-control once in a while.
Jeff, did I continue to read?
You ruined Duncan Egg.
Glow, you've already read this.
You ruined Duncan Egg.
You would have if you hadn't read this. You would have kept reading.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He'd be done the book. He's got no self-control.
So wait, but the thing is, I thought this was like a huge like. I didn't even realize that how much was in this chapter. I thought it was probably just the Robert scene, but there's like a lot in this chapter. And like I started this podcast thinking Kyle would be all pumped up, and you didn't seem that pumped up.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get as much out of it as you guys did. That's for sure.
Even after we talked about it?
So now I do as we're talking about it, I guess. Like, I mean...
There's a lot going in motion. I guess if you know nothing, like, you get Robert's dead. But, like, I don't remember if I knew the first time, like, oh, shit, they're mobilizing the City Watch and...
things are gonna happen.
They're trying to, blame the death on this kid, and Danny now he doesn't like. There's just a lot. There's a lot of information. I think to digest it all is hard. Just in a quick read.
Even the Robert dead thing, like it's weird. Like I wonder.
Well, I was trying for a while. I was trying to justify it, I guess, and think like, oh, maybe he's not going to be dead. Like he's going to be around. And
well, I think it'd be interesting if you go through maybe like when we're done all this and like you listen to just the spoiler parts, because there's parts where we're like, wait, does Kyle know that like Robert's not in season 2? Like, do we know that?
No, I didn't know that.
So and we thought that you did for most of the time, and then like a couple, maybe like 10 chapters ago, we're like, you know what? Kyle has no idea Ned's gonna die, and we're like, or Robert's gonna die. When Robert dies, it's gonna be like a total shock to him. And then like when we get to an episode like this, and you're like, yeah, it was a good episode. I was like, what the fuck? Like, how was it? The fucking king just died.
It was like that. That, like I said, I was grappling with that, but like that is the only way to kind of throw a real wrench into all these plans and make everything crazy and still like fit true to the story, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like it's very logical that it ended there, and I guess that's where I'm at.
Ended. We have 3 more.
That's kind of the hard more pages. Like, I know. Well, it's not the end, but like you know what I'm saying. Like so, like it's a storytelling device, and to think of it as kind of like meta reading, I guess. Like you're not I wasn't just reading like.
I
the
mean,
book
also,
at that
I asked
point.
you,
You're
like, did you see this coming? You're like, well, it's like a trope that people die hunting. I'm like, yeah, but you never said that one other the past 4 chapters that Robert's been hunting. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that. I guess I meant more of like that's a way to off somebody, and I didn't. You're right. I didn't think of it.
Like an actor that like they fire from a show, like, oh, he died.
You just
hunting.
make it look accidental, like, oh, they died in a hunting accident. Dick Cheney shot him in the face. You know, like.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
Like,
so like, I mean,
that
that
been
happens.
a decent amount of politics in this episode that hopefully is getting cut out. I'll leave the Dick Cheney
you can leave the
reference
Dick
in.
Cheney.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's old. Christian Bale.
All right, we've been going for this is definitely the longest non-spoiler
It's like 2
section we've had
hours
so
almost.
far. Hour and a half. Kyle, let's get some predictions so we can get on the spoiler
right, Cal.
section.
Whew. Well, so like I feel like I have minor spoiler of I know Joffrey ends up on the throne eventually, but I don't know how, and like so I don't get into it. I just know that he does end up getting it eventually. So that kind of leads me to believe that this whole Stannis plot doesn't work out, but I don't know how or
All
why.
right, let's get your mind off of Stannis and Joffrey even. Like, what's Ned's next action?
Ned's next action.
So let's start this off. Next thing that happens, most logically, unless the gods are super kind, Robert dies.
Yeah.
Upon that,
Well, upon that, what?
that's what I'm asking.
What does Ned do?
What's he do? Like, think about it. He's got the paper to take to the council. Does he take it to the
Oh
council?
yeah, no, I think he's going to take that to the council. I think Ned is still honor bound and all that, and so I think he's still going to try his plot that we're seeing here. But I don't know that Cersei's going to let it happen, and I think Littlefinger, unfortunately, is going to be a little bit right in that sense. Like, that was Renly, who has the king has the power.
Does he do anything with the bastard secret?
Like with the whole deal about Joffrey.
No, I know what you were saying. So yeah, that's what's going to get him killed publicly. I think he's not going to be able to convince anybody, and it's going to get him killed. How's that?
So
Cool.
okay. What about the letter to Dragonstone? What does Stannis do when he gets the letter? And I guess the future for Sansa and Arya.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
They're going to get out of there. And head back
On land
north.
or by sea?
We got a boat waiting that leaves tonight, right?
Still trying to hold me to that. I thought they were going on the King's Road before.
1 if by land, 2 if by sea.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Oh yeah, I forgot you did say that. That's a good point, Glo. The last time Kyle, that was your last prediction. Was like the boat was going to leave in 3 days. You're like, something's going to go on the boat, but they're going to get out on land. But yeah, Ned says that like, so this is like early morning hours, and Ned says that the boat is meant to leave tonight, like at the end of the day, like whatever, 8 p.m. tonight. It's probably like 4 a.m. right now.
Yeah, I think they're out of there. I mean, I think that's fair enough. I think they're going to head north.
So the okay, what about the Dragonstone thing?
Dragonstone, I don't think Stannis is going to come. I think he's going to say, fuck this.
And just doesn't want to be king, and it's like, it's okay.
Yeah. No, I think... Come on, Jeff.
Yeah,
I feel like You're undercutting me there.
Well, I mean, that's the
You're-
question. If Stannis doesn't come, I mean, I guess it's hard. I guess it's hard to predict. I mean, I guess that's a solid enough prediction. It's hard to know
I don't
why
know,
when you don't
we
know anything
never
about
even met
Stannis. Yeah, it's hard to know
Stannis,
why he would make a decision. But so Stannis doesn't come at all. Okay.
I'm fine with those predictions.
Yep, I'm good with that. Joff gets the throne eventually. Ned goes through with
so I
his
think
whole
that's
plan.
probably like to kind of wrap up my part of this, I guess, is like that's probably why I wasn't so pumped about this one, because like you guys were. I mean, like sure, a lot happens, but like I don't know a lot of what could happen afterwards, and like I don't know 100% what's coming or why, or like I mean, there's a lot of players here that haven't yet been really introduced.
That's why I'm so jealous of you.
Yeah,
Because I do know what happens, and I wish I didn't. There's so many different ways it could go from here, but like I already know where
and
it
so
goes.
that's kind of why it's like
It's
all right,
hard to,
well,
it's hard to do the predictions.
so now there's a lot about to happen, and like I mean I definitely knew that and saw that through the whole chapter, and I don't get me wrong on that, but like because I don't have that knowledge of what it is, like it wasn't as exciting. It was more of like, all right, well now I do have to keep reading.
I guess
to
it's
find
kind
out
of
what's
like
gonna go on.
what Glow said. It's more of like oh shit, this is crazy. Like what's gonna happen? Like most people would just be like, oh, I can't wait to find out what happens. I'm gonna read the next chapter, but
Yeah, exactly.
you can't. You got to wait 2 weeks to find out what happens with Ned next.
All right, Kyle, it was great hanging out, bud.
Thanks everyone
See you on the next
for
John
following along, listening, subscribing,
Like and favorite,
following.
write a review.
We did get a Apple Podcast review. Anybody else who listens on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Greatly appreciated, even if it's a 0
can be
out
honest,
of 5 stars. We appreciate anything.
Any news is good news.
See you later,
Bye,
Kyle.
Kyle.
Great
See you in the
hanging out,
next.
bud.
We'll
Bye,
see you in the
Kyle.
next chapter. John 6.
See you
I
guys.
don't know if it's actually 6. Bye, Kyle.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, Kyle. It was great hanging out, friend. We'll see you on the next
Bye,
episode
Kyle.
for John 6. All right, guys.
Bye, Kyle.
Now into the spoiler section of Ned 13. What are your hot takes for
I'm
this?
going to be honest. I didn't have any spoilers written down going to this. I know they're out there. I'm sure we could talk
We're
about
going to talk about
the
a lot of shit, I
promise.
know. And
Yeah,
Nelson's going to
I
bring
just
it up.
didn't. I didn't write it down because I knew Nelson was going to go ham on it. So there was no point in me. I'll just respond. I'm not going to bring anything up.
That's basically my point of view too, except I had one note that we're going to discuss anyway because it's a dream. But in the very beginning, Ned has this dream, and guess what, Nelson? There's no fucking moonlight on his head. Can't be candles.
That's not true.
Dude, it says the room is completely dark. I reread it 3 times just to make sure.
Wow. Fuck you. This is a 3-eyed raven.
The room was black as pitch. That's all I gotta say. Done. You don't need to say anything about a
Yeah.
moon. When he's
No,
walking
it's true.
when he's
I
walking through
confirm.
Maegor's Holdfast, yeah, there's moons.
Yeah, what I had, the first note that I had was as he walks to Maegor's Holdfast, the moon was out almost full.
And then also when he walks into the room, it was like he was in a dream or something too.
And then, like, when the moonlight shining off the armor made it almost look ghostly or something like that. I thought the moon might have had something to do with it, but I also don't think there's much in this dream. Like, I don't know what to pull out of it. Like,
So it's weird. Normally when he tells dreams, it's italicized. This was not italicized, which is weird.
I don't know if they're always italicized, but the only thing that I can think of it is if someone's trying to make him like remember the "Promise Me, Ned" thing. So, the next thing I want to get to is something that Kyle actually pointed out is that the Robert part of this chapter parallels the Tower of Joy part a lot.
Yeah, with the 3 Kings
Yeah.
Guard. They're
I
in
mean,
a
even him
tower.
going
King's
up
Guard.
the tower,
Robert's in a bed of blood.
dying in a tower. Yeah.
Says, "Promise me, Ned."
There's 3
What is
people
the
guarding him.
promise? What is the promise about?
Keeping,
what is
keeping
Ned?
care of his children, raising his children.
So the actual promise, when he says "promise me, Ned," it's make sure you'll eat the boar at my feast. Promise me. Like, so he's promising that he'll eat the boar, even if you
Take
if you
care.
choke on it.
But then he
Promise
says,
me.
"Take care of my
But
children."
then he says,
right?
"Take care of my children." Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
So the Tower of Joy parallels that I have are 3 men in white cloaks.
Yep.
mhm.
Loved one dying in a bed of blood. Promise me, Ned. And then
A
the quote is,
tower?
"I
It's
will
in a
give
tower?
Lyanna your." It doesn't actually say Maegor's Holdfast is in a tower.
Come on.
Because they talk about how Ned has to be escorted down his tower stairs and then
Yeah.
across a bridge.
He goes back.
But then
up.
it doesn't.
Come on.
They never mention him having to be escorted back up. I don't doubt that he did.
Well, one of
but
the
they don't
dudes is up high.
I think
one
they
of the
do when
Kings Guard.
Renly goes back.
I thought they said at the bottom of the stairs is where Barristan was.
That's where Barristan is, and then there's another one somewhere up higher, I think. The third guy.
Their keep was dark still as Cain and Tomard escorted him across the inner bailey. The moon hung low. The moon hung low over the walls, ripening towards full. On the ramparts, a guardsman in a gold cloak watched his rounds. The royal apartments were Maegor's Holdfast, a massive square fortress that nestled in the heart of the Red Keep, beyond wells 12 feet thick. What?
The Lannisters or not, Lord Renly turned away and went back across the moat to the tower
Okay.
where his brother lay dying.
Well, I'm not saying that Maegor's Holdfast isn't a tower, but I
Tower!
don't know if his is. I don't know if his is.
Get fooked.
Next.
Sir Preston Greenfield stood at the bottom of the steps. Sir Barristan sounded right at the door. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, Preston's at the bottom and then he walks up. I thought it was like Preston, like Ned walks down and sees Preston.
So I
and
thought it was
That makes sense.
Barristan and then the other guy upstairs.
No, it wasn't.
You're good. So he sees Preston, then he
Preston
walks up
first.
and sees Barristan. You guys are right. He's at the top of a tower. So yeah, I mean even more. Yeah, the parallels to the Tower of Joy. And he says, "I will." In one quote, what's Robert's very last quote? "I will give Lyanna your love, Ned. Take care of my children for me." What do we think Lyanna's promise is?
Take care of my child.
Take care of my child. Exactly. So,
Or since it's super
Who is that
parallel, is it
child?
children?
Is it Danny? Is it John?
and John?
Is
Both
it-
are kids. They're twins.
Was she
One
a
grew-
twin? Oh my
one grew
god.
blonde hair. One
I don't.
grew
I
dark
don't.
hair.
I don't
Did
hate
they
that.
pull
I
a
don't-
Luke and Leia and just split them up? One goes north, one goes south.
Again,
Holy shit.
the whole point behind the theory that I've been pointing out where Danny is Lyanna's kid is the reason Ned doesn't take her is because of the hair color. So I'm 100% behind the fact that, okay, Danny and John are twins. And the
And-
reason Ned takes John is just because he's the one with dark hair.
And they fall in love too, which is okay because they're Targaryens.
However, Nelson,
Brother, wed sister.
as you brought up before, aren't they like 9 months apart in age?
Most people think they are, but that's based off like when people say Danny's mom had her baby versus when
Ned had his, or Lyanna had his.
or Lyanna had hers, I guess. Yeah. I'm not actually sure where that dating comes from, but people say because Danny was
Again,
born
it's
at the
all
sack
hearsay.
of King's Landing. Because Danny was born at the sack. Oh, that comes from Danny being born at the sack of King's Landing and Lyanna's baby being born about 9 months after the sack of King's Landing. So that's where that comes from. And I think George. No, yeah, you're right. They can't be twins because George once in an interview said that they were born 9 months apart. So
Are
I
you
don't think the
positive
twin thing
about that?
works.
Can you look that up right now?
I'm 90% positive he said that.
Next spoiler.
I'm gonna go back to the theory I was just talking about Danny being Lyanna's and the one that the promise is about.
Why? Isn't it kind of weird that Robert switched up so much with Danny? Like,
Well, yeah, and what's he say about the boar? The boar is the god.
the boar was the gods for punishing me for wanting to kill her.
So let's real quick talk about this boar. How is this boar described? Robert calls it a certain thing 3 times.
A beast? A godly
A bitch.
beast?
A bastard. Robert refers to the boar
bastard-
3
the
times. All as a
bastard that
bastard.
killed him.
He's like, I got the bastard. You should have seen me, Ned. The bastard that got me. The bastard charged at me. Okay. How does Robert kill this thing?
He stabs it in the eye.
In the eye.
Yep.
Okay. And then he says, it's sent by the gods. Do we know any
Three-eyed
one-eyed
raven.
bastards?
Three-eyed raven.
Do we know any one-eyed bastards who have the ability to take control of animals
Oh my
at
gosh.
all? Who is
Three-eyed
considered a god? Maybe
Three-eyed
one who
raven.
might,
It's a
maybe
three-eyed
a
raven.
one-eyed
It's a three-eyed
bastard who
raven.
might be considered a god sometimes, like
I know
an
the
old
answer.
god.
I know the answer. It's a three-eyed
Jeff,
raven.
go ahead. What's your answer, Jeff?
The three-eyed raven.
Good. Ding, 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 ding.
So there's
a main
actually
theory
another
that this is
parallel
from the
too.
three-eyed raven.
It's similar
Go
to
ahead.
how the wolf died in the beginning. It was impaled with an animal's tusk in the stomach and bled and died out.
Antler horn.
Yeah, you know. Whatever.
Exactly. Stag kills the wolf. Boar kills the stag. Basically.
All right, real
Kills
quick
Robert.
segue. Per George R.R. Martin, John is 8 to 9 months older than Danny. Danny was born 9 months after the sack of King's Landing. 9 months
Okay.
after Rey and Viserys evacuated to Dragonstone. Blah, blah, blah. Putting John's birth at about the time of the sack, up to a few weeks after.
Well, yeah, because they would have to ride out there, right?
Well, if John's birth's at the time of the sack, and
They
Ned
said
doesn't-
putting John's
Ned doesn't
birth
get to
at
King's
about
Landing.
the time of the sack, up to a
Yep,
few
and
weeks
Ned
after.
does- Okay, and Ned doesn't get to King's Landing at the time of the sack. Ned is not there. Ned is at the Trident with Robert. He gets there shortly after, but then he
I
goes
thought
to
he
the
was
siege.
part of the sack,
He
but
goes
I
and
forgot
breaks.
Tywin just
Yeah,
did it.
that was Tywin. And then once he does get there, Ned is there when Robert gets there, and Robert's injured. Right, Robert got injured in the Trident, and Ned is there when they lay the babies before Robert's feet. Ned sees that, which is it has to be a decent amount of time after because Robert gets there and he's injured. So then after that, Ned goes to Storm's End and breaks the siege of Storm's End because they're still sieging Stannis. Ned goes and breaks that before he goes to the Tower of Joy. So if John is only a few weeks, like born a few weeks after
When
the
does
sack of
John
King's Landing
find
at
out-
latest,
When does John find out that Lyanna is in the Tower of Joy? How does he find
Ned?
that out?
Ned,
Yeah.
we're not really sure how he finds out.
Okay.
But when he in that dream he has right in a couple chapters ago, he's like when I got to King's Landing, you weren't there. I thought you would have been there to slay Jaime, who killed your king. When I got to the siege of when I was at the Trident, I thought you would have been there, and you weren't there. When I got to the siege of Storm's End, I thought
Yeah.
you would have been there, and they keep saying why they're not there. So Dorne is fucking not close to King's Landing. I don't think it's a few weeks ride from King's Landing to Dorne, even if Ned doesn't stop anywhere. But he does. He stops at Storm's End to break a siege. So the whole timeline with. If that would what Glow just said, and that's a quote from George R. R. Martin, if that lines up, then then John cannot be the baby of Lyanna Stark, right? 9 months after the storm at King's Landing. It makes way more sense for when Ned gets to the Tower of Joy than a few weeks after.
I don't know. I think a few weeks after makes more sense because the Siege of King's Landing happens after Rhaegar dies, correct?
That's true. So how does Rhaegar impregnate
Lyanna if he's already dead, and if that's 9 months after,
Oh.
and also it takes a couple weeks to get there,
Nelson.
so it kind of makes sense. Also,
I mean, none of it makes sense, but
No, it
I
makes
guess
sense.
you're right. That there's loopholes in both,
Here we go.
in both theories.
John's fucking Targaryen, baby. We're back on the ball. Although I did like the Dane theory.
So what do you guys think about the boar thing that I brought up? Going back to that,
Three-Eyed Raven did it.
do you think there's a chance that the Three-Eyed Raven did it? I think this is one of the things as a stretch, but
What's
I
his
think there
name
are a
again?
lot of parallels. Blood Raven,
No, not Blood Raven. His real name.
Brendan Tully or Brendan Blackfire.
Brendan Blackfire. So he is a bastard, like you said. One eye. I believe it. That's true. The game.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And like
Even
Robert
though he
calls it
had
a
2
bastard
eyes.
3 times, calls it a monstrous devil, said it's sent by the gods, stabbed it with an eye, stabbed it in the eye. What about when Ned, and I kind of brought this up a little bit earlier, when Ned says the lies we tell for love, how that parallels a lot what Jamie said, the things we do for love.
Yeah, that's a good one.
How Jamie is protecting the woman he loves, and how when Ned thinks about this, he's definitely thinking about the lies he tells for Lyanna and how he's protecting the woman I guess maybe not the woman, but like he's not protecting Lyanna by that lie, but he's protecting Lyanna's daughter. It's like there's a lot of parallels, right? Because Jamie, when Ned even thinks about what Jamie did, right? When Ned confesses to Cersei in the last Ned chapter, and he thinks like, what would Catelyn do in this situation?
Yeah.
Right. Ned's thinking more about, Jamie did this to protect his children, not to protect Cersei, right? To protect Cersei's children and his children. So Ned's saying like the lies we tell for love. Jamie says the things we do for love in order to protect his children. The other thing, going back to now let's get back on the Lyanna, whose kid is Lyanna's.
We're gonna be talking about this. Who's Lyanna's kid for the next fucking 8 years?
5 books. Yeah, 5 books.
Let's go.
So Robert says, serve the boar at my funeral feast. Robert rasped. Apple in its mouth, skin seared crisp. Eat the bastard.
Choke on it.
Don't care if you choke on him. Promise me, Ned.
Joffrey chokes at his wedding.
Listen. Don't care if you choke on it. Promise me, Ned. I promise. Promise me, Ned. Lyanna's voice echoed. The girl, the king said. Daenerys. So immediately after Ned thinks about the promise, the next thing that Robert says, completely off topic from the board that they were just talking
but
about,
he
is he
can't
brings up Dany out of nowhere.
Robert
No.
does, not fucking Ned.
Robert does.
Robert
he can't
does.
control.
Not
He
Ned.
can't control what Robert says.
Fucking who's writing this goddamn book? Robert Baratheon or George R. R. Martin?
Robert Baratheon. It's his
No.
chapter.
Yeah, but who's the next
This is
chapter
a-
right after this?
John.
I don't give a fuck about that.
Bam. Who's writing the book? Who's
Back
writing the
to
book,
back.
Nelson?
In the fucking chapter where
They're
Ned gets to
twins.
see-
They're twins. That's it.
Shut the fuck up. Hold on. When Ned gets to see the fucking bastard in the brothel, you guys were all freaking out that like Ned mentioned the promise and then in the next paragraph mentioned John in passing. Like
No.
fuck that.
That's
This
Ned
is back
bringing
to
it
back.
up.
This
That's
is
Ned
back to
bringing it up,
back.
not
Promise
Robert.
me, Ned.
Sentence.
Totally different.
This is back to back. It says, "Promise me, Ned." Lyanna's voice echoed. The girl, the king said.
But
Daenerys.
Robert brought
back
it
to
up.
fucking back.
No. Robert
I don't
brought
care
it
who
up.
brought it up. It's the writing in the fucking Ned chapter. It's fucking the same thing. It's a paragraph apart.
No, it's Ned thinking about it, not
Listen,
Robert.
I admitted last time we talked about this that there was a lot more pointing in your favor, but that can't be one.
That is.
I'm not
You guys
giving you
use
that.
You guys use that as a point for
No,
John in the
that's
previous
different.
chapter.
What happened was Ned said,
I
I
forget
worry
exactly
about my...
how it went.
He said, this is what happened. Ned was worried about all of his kids and never mentioned John. That was
No,
what
this is a different time,
was
I
the-
think.
Different time.
It's
We're
a
talking about
different time.
There was a
Okay.
time where he's leaving the bastard and he's leaving the brothel and he thinks about the promise me Ned from Lyanna, and then like the next thing later he says something about John. Like the
Okay.
next paragraph he says something about John, and you guys were like, "Oh, if he thinks about the promise, he thinks
This
about the
is
promise,
Ned.
he thinks
That's
about John
because,
back to back."
that's because everything you've ever said is that when the promise is mentioned, he thinks of Dany. And that was just one time that he didn't. So then the next time that it got brought up, he's bringing up all of his kids and never brings up John. So It's just to refute you because you're so hell-bent on Danny being
The whole
this
him
child.
not bringing up John thing, I have no problem with. I don't think John is his. I think John is Brandon's and Ashara's.
No, we're saying that Brandon's not, or John's not Liana. You're saying John's not Liana's, pretty much.
Correct. But I'm also saying he's not Ned's. He's Brandon's. So when he thinks of his own
not
children and
Brandon's.
everything that we have points to
There's
Ashara being.
no point of him being Brandon's son.
There's no point to him being Ned's son. The
there's
point
a
is
point
him
of
being
being a Dane.
Ashara's kid.
Yeah,
It's
being
a
And
a
Dane.
again, when's the timeline of Brandon being dead versus war versus John being born?
Brandon was imprisoned in. He was
he
in
was
King's
fucking
Landing.
dead.
He was in King's Landing. Guess what Ashara Dane was? Elia Martell's handmaiden.
Okay. Was she
Guess
down
where
in the
Elia Martell is?
Yeah. And a whole war happens and then she has a kid? He'd be like 3 years
The
old.
Belle of Bard story is about them having a baby in the crypts. What, you think it's unheard of? So the whole story with Ashara Dane and Brandon Stark is that they met at the tourney of Harrenhal, and here's what Barristan Selmy tells Danny: Ashara Dane looked to Stark at the tourney of Harrenhal when fucking what's the girl, the fucking frog eater girl who hangs out with Bran? When she tells Bran the fucking story, Mira, when she tells Bran the story about when Hallen Reed goes to the tourney of Harrenhal, she says that fucking Lyanna Stark danced with the strong wolf and the shy wolf was too nervous to go talk to her. Who's the fucking strong wolf? Brandon.
Whatever. That's fine.
So Brandon dances with Ashara. They obviously have they might not obviously have a thing, but there's insinuations that they have a thing, and then they both end up in the same city. Yeah, sure, he's a prisoner and she's a handmaiden. They're in the same fucking city.
So is
right?
John. So John was born before the war was over, like a long
long
time
was the
before
war?
the war was over.
No, what?
How long
The
was the war?
dad dies. Brandon dies. Brandon is killed by fire.
Before the war starts. How long's the war? Lord Stark, I forget his name, Rickard, watches Brandon get burned alive. And that's
Correct.
when everyone
That's like one of the
pulls their
biggest
forces
catalysts
together.
for why the war starts.
Why did they end up there? How did they get to King's Landing? Why did the Starks in King's Landing?
They summoned him.
No. Yeah, okay, why? Why did they summon the Stark just randomly? He wanted to burn 2 Starks?
Tell us then, if you know the
Yeah.
answer.
I think the answer is Robert and him are in the Eyrie, and Aerys Targaryen commands Jon Arryn to send Robert and Ned to the Eyrie.
That's
and
after
they say no.
That's after Brandon and Rickard are dead.
That's after they burn?
Yeah. 100%.
Then I don't know why he summons them to King's Landing.
Can you get us a Google?
So at this point, Lyanna was taken by
Kidnapped.
Rhaegar,
Yeah.
and Brandon.
So the war's already started.
No.
No, it didn't start. Brandon goes
Robert-
to talk to King Aerys and say, "Yo, dude, why did your fucking son take my sister?" And he took Brandon prisoner and summoned Lord Rickard to answer for his impertinence.
When's that? Is there a timeline?
I am just looking at Brandon Stark's Game of Thrones wiki.
I'll do some research on this and get back to it next episode, so we're not wasting too much time here. But I'm pretty sure the timeline adds up better. Fuck, it's gonna be a pain in the ass taking notes on this, but I'm pretty sure the timeline adds up better for.
After Lyanna's abduction, her older brother Brandon was enraged and wrote to King's Landing, demanding the release of his sister and the death of Rhaegar. Aerys arrested him for treason and called for his father to come to the capital to ransom him. When Lord Rickard complied, Aerys, now utterly mad, arrested him for treason as well. Rickard demanded trial by combat. Aerys declared fire as champion. The horrific and unjust way in which Rickard, Brandon, and Lyanna's adoption led to houses Baratheon, Stark, and Arryn rebelling against the Iron Throne.
Okay. But how long does the rebellion last?
Still, like she'd already have to be pregnant.
And what did we say, that Jon is born
About 1 year.
after the sack?
It just says the first answer is about 1 year.
No. You said it earlier. The quote you looked up from George R. R. Martin.
He's
Jon
9
is born.
months. He's at
It's-
least
it's-
a year older
it's
than
set-
Danny, who
the
was
way
born
he
at the sack.
insinuates it, it's either right at the sack or a couple weeks after the sack, because he's 8 to 9 months. So it's like anywhere from the sack to 4 weeks after.
Okay, I think, again, I'm not clear on this, but I'm pretty sure Robert's rebellion lasted less than a year. So if this is the catalyst that starts it, and Jon is born a
It
little bit
lasted
after,
about 1
that
year.
might add up.
2 if one counts the assault on Dragonstone as the final engagement of the rebellion.
No, right?
That's what it says
We're
there?
not counting that. No, yeah, for sure, but that's not what we're talking about, right? Like we're talking about the war ending at the sack of King's Landing. For our intents and purposes for this timeline, the war ends at the sack of King's Landing because that's our timeline for when Jon dies, right? So if the war starts a year before that, so what that quote you just said, Globe, means from the time Brandon Stark and Rickard Stark get burned, if we're saying that's the start, then a sack of King's Landing is about a year. Robert's Rebellion lasts about a year. 2, if you count a year from the time that the sack of King's Landing happens to when they actually take over Dragonstone. Because we know Dany, Viserys are supposed to have fled to Dragonstone. So if that happens, we obviously know that Dragonstone is still a Targaryen castle. So it takes a year from the sack of King's Landing till them capture Dragonstone. So that's where the 2 years comes from. But from Brandon dying to the sack of King's Landing is about a year, right? And what I've seen is about 10 months. So that theoretically, Brandon fucking impregnates Ashara the day before he dies. And then
it's very unlikely is what I was getting at.
And I've seen, again, maybe I might be off, but I don't know it for sure off the top of my head, but I will do the research and find out the timeline that I've seen before that points to it being way more likely that Dany is Lyanna's than Jon. I'll do that research for the next time. I
think that's fine, but the fact that you believe that Brandon could impregnate Ashara on the same timeline is infeasible.
No, that's the timeline points to that. The timeline that I'm talking about, the theories that I've seen. Yeah, I'll look it up, and I don't have it with me, so I don't want to talk about it now because I can't back it up.
Move on.
But I'll find it. So moving on, I think I'm getting close to everything I have.
That might just add to my whole timelines in this book are shattered.
The Robert Rebellion, like I said, the Robert Rebellion one's sketchy because like we don't have a ton of information, but any information we have is either within like the first 2 months of the rebellion or the last 2 months of the rebellion. Like there's like 4 battles that take place in the last 4 months and like 4 battles that take place in the first 2 months, and then there's like 5 in the middle where nothing's happening.
Yeah, we're talking about war. I mean, come on, there's a lot of months.
And like it's also hard because like we don't get a perspective.
They say close to a year in this wiki of Ice and Fire. So it's more than 9 months.
Fucking stupid for him. I'll do the research.
I'm on Wiki of Ice and Fire, dude.
I'll do the research.
He's gonna find. We'll do our own research too now.
I looked up timeline of major events in ASOIF.
All right, continue on, Nels. I already refuted you enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have evidence here to back it up, and I know most of the popular evidence, like if you just Google a random wiki, most of it will tell you because everyone believes Jon is Lyanna's kid. A lot of that is affected in creating timelines.
That's not even what I'm just discrediting Brandon being the father of either.
I get what you're saying, and I think I have evidence to prove that, but I don't have it offhand. I'll have to look it up and figure out where all that comes from. I've read a lot of fucking theories and read a lot of fucking Reddit.
I don't really
posts
care
and shit.
whose baby is who and who came out of whose womb, but I don't think Brandon can be the father of either. And I'll die on that hill till you prove me wrong.
Any baby.
My argument is I don't think it matters if it's Brandon or Ned. So the whole reason this started was when you said that Jon. I
think it would be a lot cooler if Ned actually had a bastard, but
I get that, but the evidence definitely doesn't point to that, especially even after what you said, where when he thinks of his own children, he does not think of Jon. And I'm saying it's still possible that Jon isn't Lyanna's, and that is still true because of Brandon. Brandon is the way that's true. And I guess the timeline I want to look up is to prove to you that, hey, this is not, again, I don't believe 100% any of this. I think Jon could be Ned's, could be Brandon's, could be whatever.
Well, you also said Jon could be fucking Lyanna's and Benjen's,
if I'm being honest, most likely, if I'm being honest, Jon is Lyanna and Rhaegar's, right? That's what everyone believes. That's how fucking, I've said this before, it's how Dave and Dan got the show. I doubt that George R. R. Martin's pulling a fast one. But it's interesting that there's evidence, there's a decent amount of evidence, and I've pointed a lot out to you guys to the contrary, that Dany is actually that baby. And why is that evidence there if it's not, if it's
and
for
again,
nothing?
If that's the truth, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think I think I'm cool with it either way. I think it'd be cooler if it was the Dany thing, just because we haven't seen that before. But yeah, moving on. I think that might be all I have. Next Ned chapter, they go north of the wall to take their vows, I think, or it's just the one where,
they get their probably they get their assignments and he's all pissed.
Yeah, and Jon finds out he's a steward.
But I think it probably ends at him. And
I think it ends with Ghost bringing him the hand at the weirwood. Right, they go to say their vows, and
comes
Ghost
alive,
brings
right?
him back a dead hand, and then the next John is that they're out there looking for him. Yeah, the last line of the next Ned chapter is "Good, gods be good." Dwen muttered, "That's a hand." So, yep, they get their assignments and they go take their vows at the heart tree.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Long one. Please bear with us.
Be sure to like, comment.
Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a comment on YouTube, give us a review on iTunes. We'll talk about it in the next episode. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. See you in
See
John
ya.
6.
See you later, everyone.
Bye.